Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
So sorry about that. I can't believe it didn't record me. That is so silly. All right, I guess I can start over. Starting over from the beginning, the Pipedream can connect APIs and services together, just like Zapier, IFTT, or Make. But what's different about Pipedream is that we are developer first and code first. So a project in Pipedream is a collection of workflows and folders. But what's different, or it's much like a GitHub repo, where you can have multiple scripts and apps. Here in Pipedream, a project is like a repo, and that can hold many workflows or folders containing workflows. So we're going to create a new workflow called new customer. And I'll go over these other options down here later, but this is a basic workflow where we're going to pretend that we're going to receive, like a new customer event from your API, or perhaps a new contact form. Here you can see this is a brand new workflow. There's a trigger, and the trigger is what initiates the workflow and sets it off. The HTTP webhook is our most popular one. It's the easiest way to set up a workflow just by an HTTP message. But we support thousands of different APIs and services, and you can trigger workflows on things like new Slack reactions or Google Sheet rows. You can even make your own custom triggers, which I can go into later. So let's go with the most popular one, an HTTP request. And here you can see it generated a unique URL that's only going to trigger this workflow. And we can generate a test event that we will mock up and say name Dylan Pierce, like I was showing you before, and the email, which is pierce@rentdrones.com. And instead of having to go over to Insomnia or Postman or your application and send a test request, you can generate one here. And this would mock essentially an HTTP request coming into your workflow. And you can see the full request details like IP address, email, etc. Now I'm going to demonstrate how you can quickly add an app to your workflow, a connection to an app without using code. So Slack is a really popular one. Sending a message to a public channel is another popular action. And here you can just quickly connect to your Slack account. It doesn't require you to set up OAuth. It doesn't require you to rotate access tokens. All you do is perform the OAuth handshake, and Pipedream manages the auth for you. And then you can pick a channel. I was using Pierce's Playground, which is my test channel, and we can say new customer is this new customer. And we're just pasting in the path to that email address from the trigger, which is the HTTP payload. And click test, and this will only run this particular step in isolation. We can go back here and we can see, yes, sure enough, it creates a brand new customer. Like I mentioned, this Pipedream is a code-first platform. So not only can you run pre-built actions, but you have the flexibility to dive into code at any time and actually use Node.js code or Python code to alter workflows and make transformations on data. And another really cool feature is being able to use AI to generate this code. So let's just tell Pipedream I'd like to extract the domain from the email address in the steps trigger.body.event.email. And this hopefully will return the same exact code I just demonstrated before. I think this will work. It gave me an extra import, which is a good sideline. But we'll test this, and I'll share with you what that means. So test this, great. So it extracted rentdrones.com from the email address in the contact form. We didn't have to write code. We had to look up how to split on the ampersand. It just does that for us. And if you wanted to include imports from NPM, you can up here. You don't need to actually maintain a package.json. We'll do that for you. So for example, Axios is a really popular HTTP client. All you have to do is type in import Axios from Axios, and it will grab the latest version of that package and install it. But moving on, I'm going to copy this return value that we just generated from our AI code, from our Node.js code, and I'm going to include it here in our Slack message. And we'll just say from this domain that we just extracted. And that will change the Slack message to include that new domain that we just extracted. So this is just a small example of what you can do. You can retrieve data, you can alter the data. It's really sky's the limit when it comes to making changes to your workflow and using code within it. So under our settings of the workflow, I mentioned that there are some more advanced settings. In the advanced plans, we start to offer things like eliminating cold starts. So under the hood, Pipedream uses AWS Lambda to perform your work, to execute your workflows. So they can scale infinitely, but near infinitely, but at the cost of the scale, you can actually run into cold starts, which happens when a workflow hasn't run for about 5 minutes. AWS will then put your Lambda into a cold state, or your workflow into a cold state. This feature here eliminates cold starts for those that need the flexibility of having your workflow being available and execute quickly where time matters. And this allows you to configure how many workers should be warm at any given time. The other cool feature for more advanced use cases is running in a VPC. So let's say you're running some kind of database like a Postgre or a MongoDB that's sensitive, and it shouldn't be accessible to the open internet. What you can do is create a VPC, and here you can see this VPC has been assigned the IP address of 523.211.3, and all outbound HTTP requests from this workflow will use that IP address. So that means on your database, you can say, okay, only accept connections from this IP address, allow connections. So it blocks the other portion of the internet, even though they might have the credentials to your database, they cannot access your database without originating from this IP address. Kind of adds an extra layer of security for your internal apps or your databases. There are other really cool controls like limiting concurrency and limiting execution rate. These are really, really helpful for things like adhering to rate limits. For Google Sheets, for example, you can only make post requests once every second. So instead of having to write node code to adhere to that limit, instead you can just say right here in the configuration, you can allow 60 executions every 1 minute, which is the same thing. Or you could say every 1 second, one execution every 1 second. And that way you will avoid you will respect rate limits from other APIs that your workflow might be receiving events very quickly, but this will slow down your workflow from executing too quickly and hitting those rate limits. So that covers the basics of workflows themselves. There's really cool features like adding data stores, and data stores are simple key value stores that allow you to persist data between workflows in a simple key value store. You can edit these in the actual node code itself, or you can edit them within this kind of interface here, and you can see the value and you can see the key. Sources are another word for triggers in a way. So sources power triggers, and you can create your own sources from scratch using code, or you can use one of our 1,000+ pre-built sources that listen to things like new messages on Discord or new records on Airtable. And then event history, this is a global view of your entire account, and you can see exactly where which executions are failing, which workflows are not doing well, which ones are processing slowly, and you can see exactly how many credits each workflow uses and the amount of time each execution takes. So this is just a really handy kind of like single pane of glass to see all this information. When we go to projects, I did mention that there is that these are kind of like one-to-one with a repo. I meant that in a literal sense too, because you can actually enable GitHub sync to any project in Pipedream if you're on a business plan and above. And you can configure it to connect to a specific workflow or a specific project, and it will serialize your workflow, and then it will actually commit the changes as commits in the repository, allowing you to have a version control and see have some Git blame, just have better control over the code and the ability to roll back if something goes wrong. So when it comes to pricing, our pricing page, when you first sign up for Pipedream, you get a free 14-day trial of our advanced plan, which is our most popular plan. It includes that AI generation I just showed you, unlimited workflows, unlimited connected accounts, and the GitHub sync feature, like I just showed you as well. The big difference between the lower tier, the basic tier, and the free tier versus the advanced is the number of workflows that you have access to. So you can only have 5 active workflows on the free account, for example, but you can have 20 on the basic tier. The same thing with connected accounts. It's limiting on connected accounts on free and basic, whereas on advanced and business, you unlock unlimited accounts and unlimited active workflows. Then when looking at the business tier, the biggest difference between the advanced tier and the business tier are the security features you'll get. Running in dedicated VPCs, like I showed you, for accessing sensitive APIs or databases, that's available in our business tier, as well as custom webhook domains, which is a very new feature that allows you to assign your unique webhook URLs to your own domain instead of using the pipedream.com domain. Of course, it also includes features like SSO, so you can manage your user accounts through Okta or through Google SSO, etc. Support also differentiates as well based on the tiers, but you can join our community at any time if you have questions about using Pipedream. There's a really cool AI bot that'll help answer questions near instant, and it does a really good job at telling you how to or building components for you. Essentially, just tell it, I want to send a message over Slack using a Pipedream Node.js step, and it will show you how to do that and give you the code. Where that fails, you can actually connect to a Pipedream partner, professional that knows the Pipedream ecosystem, knows how to build Pipedream workflows end to end, and they'll be able to help you build the solution you need if you need professional help. And then, of course, we have a free series where you can learn about Pipedream from the basics all the way up to building your own triggers and your own actions from scratch. And we do offer support. The level of support depends on the tier, but we can help with general billing, account issues, integration questions. But when it comes to workflow support, that's only available on advanced and above. So that pretty much sums it up. Thanks for working with me through those technical issues. Is there any questions I can help answer?
I have just one question.
Sure.
It's related to how can we detect if a workflow is failing and send an alert to a mobile number or an email?
Okay. So you may have noticed when you have the workflow settings open right here, there's a notify me on errors. This is called the error channel. So in Pipedream, there's an error like notification that you can subscribe to. If you go to, let's look for subscriptions. Here we go, subscriptions. So under here, there's a channel called $errors, and any errors that are thrown by the workflow or source will be emitted to this stream. And you can create a subscription to a workflow that sends this error to wherever you'd like. It goes to, you can send it to CloudWatch or Slack, any service really. And I can share a YouTube video that we made about this, this same case actually. But I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you after the call. But yes, you can customize how errors are handled. If you prefer to have a different logging service or notification system, you can set that up using a subscription.
I see that there are two kinds, like one is errors and another is logs, right?
Right. Yeah. Logs are only by sources, whereas errors are any error thrown by a workflow or a source.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah. Yep. Any other questions I can help with? We used to have this thing called a global error workflow, but that has been removed since V2 of Pipedream. It's just subscriptions now.
And related to the logs, do you recommend any application to save all the logs for the workflows?
It really depends on your preference. If you're coming from like an AWS background, CloudWatch is a good option. I actually prefer like this lesser known tool called Logflare. I believe it's called Logflare. Yeah, I like Logflare quite a bit. You can use SQL-like queries to search through your events. So yeah, you can pipe your Pipedream workflows to a logging tool, any one you prefer. It just depends on how you like to set up notifications and how you like to filter your logs. If you prefer SQL or if you prefer kind of like a easy point and click, or if you like the AWS CLI, AWS infrastructure, or Google, just depends. The other thing I should mention is you can see all of your logs in Pipedream under the event history. You can see all the errors. And this is another good way to see at a global view which workflows are failing and why. You can open up the traces right here and have the same filtering. So you can see the past hour, how many errors you have, and which workflows are airing out higher than normal.
That's perfect. I will search Logbase. I was using Pipedream for some projects, and I connected with Google Sheets, but Google Sheet is not like for big logs.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, like I mentioned, they rate limit pretty hard. 1 second per new row. So it doesn't scale well. It's free, but it doesn't really scale well with lots of logs, unfortunately. You can even use S3 if you'd like. You can create a workflow that just creates an S3 object for every new log instance. But I still would recommend using a pre-built logging solution. It's just much less of a headache.
That's perfect. Thank you for the response.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for letting me know about the sound issues. I think that's about it. But yeah, thanks for your time. If you have any questions, let me know. And I will post the link. Are you a member of our Slack community?
No, I would like to join.
Yeah, join, and I'll send you a link to that CloudWatch video we did, integrating the error subscription to CloudWatch, and you can just follow that.
Okay, that's perfect. I will join.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.